Hey guys, what is up? It's Eric with Advanced Level Automotive, coming back to you with another video. And today I got this 2013, it's a Toyota Rav4. It's got the 4-cylinder engine in it, and it just got dropped off with the tow truck. And this vehicle actually came from a local dealership. I guess the customer was recommended to me by somebody else, and the dealership was, I guess, charging her a pretty high diagnostic fee. So anyway, she decided to have the vehicle towed over here. I'm looking at the sheet, and it essentially says that looks like none of the windows are working, the radio's not working, a lot of the lights inside aren't working. You have to jump start the vehicle, and whenever you pull the jump box off, the vehicle dies. So I think initially what the customer told me was that she had a dead battery, and so she had somebody try to jump it. She believes they jumped it backward, because after that she really started having all these problems. So anyways, that's what we're dealing with. I believe they jump started this vehicle backwards. And you know, I'm not gonna lie, it does seem like, you know, it could be pretty easy to get these two mixed up. But you know, a lot of times when you're going to jump a vehicle and you're not sure which is the ground side or the power side, I always try to look at you know, these ground wires. You'll see where they go to the body, or you know, you see how this one goes to the body. So if you're looking at a terminal and it's got a wire coming off of it going to a ground somewhere on the chassis or even on the engine block, you're gonna know that's the ground side. So anyway, the battery is completely dead, so it does need a battery. Right now I have my jump battery hooked up to it. It's my makeshift jump battery here. My jump box took a crap too many times, and I got tired of buying expensive jump boxes from the tool truck. So I just cut my cables off of one and used some universal terminals, and I got me a little Honda battery, and it works great because, you know, whenever I have a problem with it, I just call the local auto parts that I deal with, and they're able to warranty that battery. Anyway, I got my jump battery hooked up to it right now. Also got my power probe hooked up. Well, I did when I took it off. Let me put it back on. Okay, so before, when I would turn the key on, nothing inside would come on because the battery was completely dead. And so now that we have the jump battery on, we should be able to put the key in. Now the lights come on. Let me try to start the vehicle. And the vehicle does start and run. There's some lights that are on. Looks like the radio display is not working. The air conditioning, nothing here is working. And the windows are not working. So first things first, let's check some fuses. Let's go back under the hood. Got the fuse box uncovered here, so that we could just kind of go down the line and check these fuses. So anytime you have a battery that's been jumped backwards, you know, that's the first thing you want to check. And all right, so the first thing I notice is that when I want to go check to see if there's power at this main battery terminal right here that powers up the entire fuse box, let me touch it with my power probe. You can see we barely have any voltage there. That should be a direct power feed from the battery to this fuse box. So right now, I don't think any of these fuses really have any power because there's no power at the power source here. I guess one of the things I want to try is I want to use my power probe to send power through this terminal to see if any of the accessories come on. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm just going to push this little rocker switch, and it's going to send a 12-volt power feed into that terminal right there. So let's go ahead and do that. Check that out. Immediately the wiper blades start coming on. Well, I heard them come on. Let's see if they come back on. There you go. See the wiper blades moving? So I guess they must have left the wiper blade switch on. A little circuit breaker on here, blue. Let's check that again. And now we got some voltage here. That's kind of funny. So it doesn't seem to be strong enough to make my meter make any noise, but I'm showing system voltage here. It's pretty strange. Okay, I wonder if there's some kind of one-way diode or something on this wire that goes to this box. Because, well, even system voltage is pretty low. System voltage is only showing 11.5 volts. That's kind of strange because over here I'm showing 14 volts. Okay, well, let's go down the list here. So let's go down the row of fuses and see if we find any that are blown. Pretty simple. We're just going to touch our power probe on each side of the fuse, and basically what we want to hear is the same noise on each side. So if you hear that it's touching the ground and the ground on the other side, you know there's no power being sent through that fuse, so it really doesn't matter right now. Let's just go down the line and see if we have one that has power on one side but no power on the other side. Power, 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 or ground, excuse me. Ground, ground, power, 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 no power, power. Double check that again, no power on that side, but we have power on this side. So this fuse has to be blown. Let's go ahead and pull that fuse out, which is this 10 amp fuse right here. See if we can get a close-up of that. I don't know if you can see that, but the little bridge has been burned, so that is a bad fuse. Got another 10 amp fuse right here. Let's go ahead and stick that in place. And if we look at the fuse box here, I believe that fuse is ETCS fuse. I believe that's electronic throttle control, if I'm not mistaken. Let's keep going down the list, see if there's any other ones we're dealing with. Or down the road. Power, 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 ground. Check that out. Power on one side and ground on the other side. So that fuse is also blown. Let's go ahead and take that fuse out. Pull this one out. Let me get another 10 amp fuse. Alright, so I got the other fuse replaced. Got the cover right here. Alright, so when I find it on the box here, or on the cover, it says ECU B number 2. It's a 10 amp fuse we just replaced. I don't want to bore you, but I just went down the rest of the row here, and I found one more fuse, which is this very last 20 amp fuse over here. I got ground on this side and a power on this side, so we're going to pull that fuse out, replace it. Alright, so I just replaced that last fuse, that 20 amp fuse that was blown. I checked the cover here and it shows that it's for the radio. So looks like we had a total of 3 blown fuses. Let's check to see if the stuff inside is working. First thing we can check is the windows. Go ahead and try to roll them up. There we go. Roll the other window. Looks like the windows are working. Get inside the vehicle here. I can already see that the radio is on. I know the sun's really bright. I don't know if you can see that, but it says source right there. The screen is on. I just powered it on. It's not on a radio station, but you can probably just find a radio station here. Alright, radio is working. And let's see if the air conditioning is working, because it is 100 degrees outside right now. So let's turn the AC on here. Alright, AC is on. Looks like it's working. I think I want to go ahead and try to cycle the key off and then back on. Let's see what happens. Cycle the key back on. Start it up. All right, so looks like we lost power to everything again. Check the windows, see if they're working. The windows are not working. All right, so all we did was cycle the key off and on, and nothing's working. So check it out. We got a battery light on also with the check engine light. Let's go back under the hood and let's check that main power feed to the fuse box. Touch that again. You can see we don't have a power feed there. So that's funny because earlier, if you recall, we sent the power feed to this terminal right here, and after that we had power there. And when we cycle the key off and then back on, we no longer have power at this connection here at the fuse box. So right now there is no power to anything. So let's go ahead and figure out if we can see if maybe there's a fusible link on this wire. Maybe even pull up a wiring diagram. Alright guys, we're back here in the back of the shop at my trusty computer. Got the wiring diagram pulled up for the power distribution. And pretty simple. If you look over here, we got the battery. And this is the wire that we have that comes off of the battery terminal that goes to the fuse box. So this is where it attaches at the fuse box. If you follow it back, there is a 120 amp fuse here for the alternator on another fuse box, on a different fuse box. And if you follow that wire back, we have this fusible link on the wire itself. So I think the first thing we want to do is we want to locate this other little fuse box here. It says it's on the left side of the engine compartment, and we want to locate this 120 amp alternator fuse. Alright guys, so going back to the vehicle, as I mentioned before, it's really hot out here, so I got my trusty canopy, give me a little bit of shade because there's no room inside the shop, and you always got to stay hydrated. So I got some nice cold water. Anyway, let me show you what I found. That fuse box, the way it was drawn up on the wiring diagram, it kind of looked like the fuse box that housed the 120 amp fuse for the alternator was on a separate box, but I looked around, I didn't see one, and I think I figured out where it's at. It's actually located within this box, but just in this little area right here. So if you look, there is a 120 amp fuse right there, and I don't know if you can see it, this 120 amp fuse, but if you look at it, let me try to turn the light on here. Hopefully you can see that that fuse is blown. I don't know how well that's showing up on the camera, but it's definitely a blown fuse. So I'm going to go ahead and order one of these, pull this one out, and see if we can get everything working again. Also, on that same token, we should actually just take a quick moment to visually inspect the rest of these fuses, because the nice thing is they have these little windows at the top, and you can see the little bridges inside. And just kind of take a moment to visually check all of these fuses and make sure that none of these are blown. And they all look good except for this big 120 amp one. So I'm going to go ahead and, like I said, get it on order and replace it. Alright guys, so I went ahead and tried to remove this fuse. But when I did that, I noticed that the two little legs, the terminals for the fuse, actually stayed stuck inside the fuse box. And no matter how hard I pried up on these things, they would not come out. So I did a little bit of research on it, and come to find out that this fuse is actually bolted into the fuse box. So this is going to require the complete disassembly of this fuse box in order to replace this fuse. So there's no way around it. We're going to have to completely take this thing apart. So let's get started. So the first thing you're going to want to do is remove the negative battery terminal. Go ahead and disconnect it. Now that we got that out of the way, we're going to want to go ahead and remove this bolt. Right, now that we got that loosened out of the way, we're going to lift up on this clip right here. The other side, there we go. We're able to slide that up and out of the way. Unplug those two connectors there. Alright, so next up we're going to want to remove just this one bolt right here for the top part of the fuse box. Now we're going to want to disengage the clips top part of the fuse box. All right, so if you look closely at the side of the fuse box, you'll see these clips on the side. So you need to have somebody with the screwdriver pry open those clips while you lift up on the top part of the box. All right, guys, so we ended up actually having to take all 3 bolts for the fuse box out. So there was 2 bolts down here, 1 bolt up here that held the fuse box to the actual body so that we can gain access to the clips on the back side over here. One more thing you need to know before you can separate the bottom of the box is that there is a zip tie on this rear harness right here. So we did have to cut a zip tie in order for us to be able to separate the bottom part. So, all right, so the next thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to separate this outer skin piece from everything in the center. So you're going to need to take out the big relays here so that you can gain access to the several clips that are around the fuse box so that you can separate the inside from the outer part. And once you do that, you should be able to separate this. And I'm not going to lie, this was very difficult to do. But once you're able to do that, you'll end up with this right here. And if you look where our fuse is located, you'll see a bolt on this side and a bolt on the other side. We're going to go ahead and remove those and replace the fuse. All right, so just to be a little more detailed here, there are 5 different clips. There's one here, the second one here, the third one here, the 4th one here, and the 5th one over here. So once you get all those clips, push them down and you'll be able to separate this inside portion from the outside. All right, so now that we have the old one removed, this is the new one right here. And on this aftermarket version, it's got open legs. I don't know if that's any help, but we're gonna go ahead and stick this in, slide it in place, and then we should be able to install our bolts on the side here. Just snug it just like that. Don't want to over tighten it. And do the other side. Alright, so once you got the fuse installed, you're going to want to go ahead and put everything back together in the reverse order that you took it apart. Alright guys, so I just want to show you after replacing the 120 amp fuse for the alternator, we got everything working inside the vehicle. Radio's working, air conditioning's working, all of the windows are working. If you guys enjoyed the video, please hit the like button. If you enjoyed the channel, please subscribe, and I hope to see you guys in the next one. Thank you.